Resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an airport ground lease agreement with Executive Hangars of Lincoln LLC, a veteran-owned company. Mr. Scully.
Thank you. I'm going to cover the first part of this and need to help close the last part of this. So she's
John,
gonna...
one question because.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yep.
Do I meet the threshold for Little Vinex, so I've got to excuse myself. Should I do it at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, me as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
As they are exiting, I will share what we have done to this point. Just to give a little background on this project, since it's been a while since it's been to council. What you have in front of you is a lease, an agreement with Executive Hangars of Lincoln, a veteran-owned company that is seeking to sort of effectuate an award of an RFP that occurred in the fall of 2023 for the construction, operation, and management of privately owned aircraft hangars at our airport. So to take you way back, one of the things the city council asked me to do when I was hired was to focus a little bit on the airport to try to create a business that's sustainable over time. And it's been a process, a long process. And Christine and Nita and Matt and Vin and a lot of the folks in this room, Aaron, a lot of people have tried to help to do that because we really only have one dedicated person at the airport every day. And so it's been sort of a group effort. You may recall that we started off kind of dipping our toes into the water by doing individual leases on flight lines for some of the larger hangar builds, and some of those are in various stages of planning and design. And then the airport committee pushed forward this concept that what we really need to do is expand our hangar portfolio. And the city of Lincoln has learned the hard way that building our own hangars is a very bad business decision. And the best way to do this is to lease ground to individuals and private business to develop the hangars. They pay us a ground lease. And our theory about how to run this business is that we focus most of our efforts on fuel sales. So how do you drive fuel sales up? Well, you increase presence at the airport, but more importantly, you increase tenancy at the airport because there's really only one gas station at the airport. And I suppose you could fly somewhere else to fill up, but that's pretty expensive to do. So in 23, we issued a request for proposals. A subcommittee of the Airport Commission and a few of us staff reviewed those. Executive Hangars of Lincoln won that RFP. Their project includes 48 new T hangars and 20 new 50 by 60 box hangars. The T hangars are the kind of small ones where you just basically fit a plane in and nothing else. And the box hangars are more kind of the classic ones you might imagine that have the large door and lots of space to work on the aircraft and store materials. There was some hangars, a small amount of T hangars that were constructed by the city back in 2012. But prior to this, we can't find any record that there have been any hangars built by anyone at the airport in over 30 years. So this was kind of a groundbreaking moment. This expands our hangar portfolio at the airport, we think, by a roughly 30%. So it's a pretty significant shot in the arm. Since that RFP was awarded, Ed, who is here tonight, who's the lead on this project, has gone through we both, city and Ed, have gone through kind of an odyssey of permitting with the FAA, with the Placer County Conservation Program, our internal requirements for civil and building plans. And we kind of took this as a pilot. Community development has been a really good partner, keeping costs down. Unlike other projects, this is really kind of at some point, this reverts back to the city. So we're sort of incentivized to try to make this as streamlined as possible because at the end of the day, the airport is trying to achieve a bottom line. Now we're at a point where we're just about ready to start construction, and so you'll see a lot of construction activity, if approved, this summer as Ed's team begins the underground work and a lot of the concrete work they're going to need to do, and then eventually the last phase will be the steel structures going up. So what we needed to do as part of completing the deal was we had to effectuate basically a deal with Ed and Executive Hangars of Lincoln so that he has something to sell. So like, so the concept, the business concept at this stage is that each of these hangars will likely be sold individually to pilots. And the pilots will then assume this lease that's in your packet there. And they will have the rights to that hangar for the term. So if you think about it, it's sort of in a way, it's kind of like a timeshare. You don't really own it. You own it for the term that you have rights to it. And then beyond that, you either renegotiate or not. So there's a couple key provisions in here, and I think I'm going to kick it to Nita for that, and I'll come back. We did some calculations of what we think this does to the bottom line of the airport in terms of revenue generation in fuel and lease revenue. But maybe Nita, you want to walk them through the finer points?
Yeah, sure. So this lease has really been a collaboration between city staff, Etsu Bar, and supported very wholeheartedly by the airport committee. But just kind of the boiler points of this lease and is that it is for a 40-year term with an automatic 10-year extension, as long as that the tenant is in good standing and there are no issues. And that once it's effectuated, that as Sean said, that it can be subordinated out. So that gives Ed the opportunity to turn this into a revenue generator to get his funds back for the construction of the hangars and the infrastructure that's included. We're also discussing with him ways that he can monetize the infrastructure that he's putting in so that he can receive a reimbursement back as well. But the lease itself, when you look at the financial section, if you did, you're like $60,000 a year, but you have to keep in mind that is merely for the ground. And as Sean said, you know, the real purpose of this lease is to drive business to the airport. That by developing these hangars, by leasing out and renting, selling these hangars means more planes at the airport. More planes at the airport means more traffic, more activity, more opportunity, and definitely more fuel sales. The lease does include an escalator each year. It also includes an ability to do a market adjustment. It also includes that if and when the city does implement a common area maintenance or a CAM fee, that would be attributable to these hangars as well. So we really tried to build in all the things that you would expect a professional agreement to have. And a result of the fuel sales, on top of the 60-ish thousand a year, you're looking at probably another 250, and then add in the escalators of 5% in the CAM agreement. So it really will be a shot in the arm for the airport. We were joking earlier that another 250 in fuel sales would be an additional 12% to the airport's little budget. So a big help for the airport.
Awesome, thank you.
So, what I'd add is, and I'm just doing, so I'm checking my math really quick because I did it in my office.
It was like 261,000-ish. We're
So-
estimating like 60,000 gallons a year of fuel sales.
Yeah, and what that equates to, you know, like she said, is a 12.5% increase. But that's assuming, so just to not to get too nerdy on this, that's assuming all of those 60,000 gallons that we're selling are avgas, which is general aviation fuel. That's the fuel that you would use for, you know, most kind of hobbyist pilots. Jet fuel, we receive a significantly larger margin on. And one of the things that's exciting about this project is with 20 box hangars, we now have a place where some of those larger aircraft can have a home. And we find that folks that fly jets into our airport don't appear to really shop around for fuel price. They're here for a reason. It's very expensive to fuel a jet. You know, they take a lot of fuel, and I think the latest could be close to $7 or $8 a gallon in some cases. So that's that margin. You could conceivably have $200,000 to $250,000 of additional revenue, not included in this. We were just trying to give a floor number. But over time, what I think this puts us in a couple of different positions. It gives us the ability to drive more business to the airport. You can note in your staff report, we always have a waiting list for hangars out at the airport of somewhere between 100 and 150 individuals. And so we know there's a market. We know there's a lot of interest. And what this does is puts us in a position so that when we go to build our projects out there and Matt and his team are trying to find ways to put together money to maintain that airport, we now actually have something that we can monetize and drive, at least some revenue to. And in fact, we'll have another item after this that speaks to that as well. But this is just one piece of multiple puzzles. So we recommend approval on it, and we're really excited to see it move forward. It'll be a big deal for the airport, and even though it's going to be kind of a pain from a construction perspective for a few months. And I'm sure Ed may or may not want to speak.
Ed, would you like to make a few comments?
Check, check. Okay,
go.
good. So last February, I was here and you guys voted in the project and I really appreciate it. So now it's a little bit over a year and here we are again. I gotta tell you, so many things have happened in the last year. I've made so many friends, so many, just incredible. At the city level, everybody is working really, really diligently and very hard on this project. And it's not only my labor of love, I know it's everybody here. It's not just me, and I realize that. It's everybody. It's a team effort. And for me, again, this project's bigger than just me. And at this stage of life, I really look for contribution. And I'm so fortunate enough to have been able to wrap William Jessup and their aviation program into this, because it really, it supercharges this whole thing that I'm doing in life. And again, it satisfies my contribution side. Other than that, this is an amazing project. Some of the input that I got from folks that are a lot smarter than me in a lot of different areas have told me, oh my God, you got to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And through the PCC program here that we have, we got that done in 3.5 months. And people were like shaking their head going, how'd you do this? I mean, again, I've made, I would say I've made some friends at the FAA side, and they have their eyeballs on this project, and they're moving it along as quickly as possible. PG&E, you think of high rates and other things. I actually, I contacted the CEO of PG&E, and she has her eyeballs on this project, and she's actually helping it move along as well. So really, the hardest part of that you would think that it would be in projects like this have actually become a blessing. So I just want to say, it's just not me, it's everybody here. So thank you. Thank you for the support.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate you for on so many levels. And one of the things that was a priority for me when I first came to city council was the airport. And it was a slow moving, iceberg. But I think we're finally getting to a place where it's going to be just amazing. And it's so appreciate your love for aviation, your love for our airport, willing to put yourself out there, and for staff, all your work, everybody that's pitched in on this. I've been saying a long time that our Lincoln Airport is a diamond in the rough. It's going to be the gem of Placer County, and this is one of the first steps. So thank you very much. I'm very excited. Okay, thanks, Ed. Is there
Thank you.
anybody here who would like to make a public comment on this? Anybody on Zoom? Oh, Darla. Hello, dear.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't do planes or anything like that, but if this is gonna go through and it's gonna make money, I'm for it. Because every year, this town has been sponsoring that airport and we get nothing in return. So if the plan goes where there's gonna be a profit, I'm for it. But make sure that there is gonna be a profit for it, because it's a small percent of Lincoln residents that actually use the airport. Thank you.
Carla? Yes, sir.
The airport is also in a moderate hazard severity zone. So
No. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay, close public comment and come back.
Had a comment
Yeah.
about the length of the lease that's been proposed and, you know, from what I understand, there, a lot of people might be concerned that, you know, you're doing a 40 plus 10. And so maybe you just speak to that a little bit, Sean.
Yeah, this is something we actually went back and forth. This is a fairly easy negotiation compared to some of the other ones we're involved in. We went back and forth on this particular issue a number of times. The way to think about this is imagine that you were moving forward with a project like this and you're investing millions of dollars into something you're going to sell, but you don't own the property. So what are you really selling? I mean, I suppose what you're selling is a place for someone to store their plane and a steel structure and, you know, maybe a bathroom if you're lucky. So there isn't much value to the actual structure itself. It's that it's located on an airport and you know, that real estate is finite and doesn't exist everywhere, i.e. the long list we have of people waiting for hangars, right? So one of the things that was raised was that there's precedent for this. I think it's the Placer Hangar Company, and then there's one other project that's pretty old out there at the airport, had 47-year leases, 40 years plus 7-year extensions. So once we sort of viewed it from that perspective, and then there's a different philosophy. In fact, Matt Medill and I speak about this a lot. Reversion is this concept that when the lease is over, the city takes ownership of that physical structure. So at the end, conceptually, we take back ownership of the buildings that he paid to build and their tenants, you know, et cetera. And since we have some reversions coming, there's a really interesting philosophical discussion the council will end up having at some point about whether you want that. And some people would argue, yes, you do, because it gives you the ability to renegotiate and do something different with that ground. Others might say you do not want a depreciating asset that's 40 or 50 years old that may have been well maintained, may not. The reason why I'm comfortable at a 50-year term here is there's a difference between virtually any other project we have out there. Ed has proposed that this will be managed under essentially kind of like call it a homeowners association. So they will manage themselves. They will pay their rent all as one. So they run out of a couple people skip town, they go into bankruptcy, they can't pay their loan on their hangar. Matters not to the city. We still receive what we receive regardless over that period of time. So there's a protection inherent in there. And you know, he's been very honest that what he needs to be able to sell is this term. And in some cases, people may not be able to afford a 50-year deal. They may only be able to afford 25 years. Maybe they're 70 years old and they don't have 50 years to go. And he wants the ability to be able to sell thereafter, which I think is reasonable, just given the upfront cost. So, did I cover that, Ed? Okay.
I appreciate you, you know, going over that. And I'm all for the supporting Ed in this for tons and tons of reasons. But I figured it was worth a conversation for some that might look at that and be like, well, why in the world did you decide to do that long of a term? So thank you.
Okay, good. All right. A motion.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Reedy,
Yes.
Mayor Andriata.
Yes. Congratulations. Everyone. Wait for our other council members to come in. All right. Item 14D, conceptual proposal for Lincoln Speed Fest at Lincoln Regional Airport. It's the airport night, I
Yep.
guess.
So I'm gonna, actually, I just talked with the, or two police officers in the back who are somewhat responsible, well, not somewhat, are responsible for this concept. And I'm gonna audible a little bit. We were gonna do a full PowerPoint and we can pull up and show you some, of the research that they did. But I think first what I'll do is just talk you through the concept. And then to the extent you need additional information, we can go through that just so we can be efficient here. So Darla led me in perfectly to this. She's correct. The airport on a lot of levels for a long time, because of a number of reasons, has sort of been a financial problem for the city. And there's a number of reasons for that. But what we've done is over the last couple of years is really thought creatively about a diversification of how we want to drive more revenue and interest in the airport. So it started with the restarting of Wings and Wheels, which we're now in we finished year 2, we're back to year 3 of the restarted Wings and Wheels. And we've had a lot of success in those. Councilmember Pearl, prior to being elected, when he was elected treasurer, kind of restarted that project, got the chamber involved, got the city involved, and now that's become a successful event. A couple weeks ago, I have a appointment on my calendar that just says Speed Fest on it. I don't even know what we're talking about. And I walk into the room and Councilmember Pearl's there and our 2 police officers in the back are there. And I think to myself, this is really strange. And we sit down and they basically pitched this concept that they had come up with about a different kind of event at the airport that they believe not only can drive a lot of interest and be fun for the community, but also will generate a lot of revenue for the airport. Rogers and Parsons, who are back there, who are part of our special response team, SRT? Resource team. Special resource team, off duty, came up with a concept for a racing event at the airport. And you might think, well, why? Well, they explained to us that there are no kind of drag-related racing events in California that have the length of the type of runway we have. You may find a quarter mile, lots of different places, but we have a half mile. And so it allows for a very different kind of experience. And so they went and did a ton of research. They looked at other communities that have done this. This does not exist that we know of very much anymore in California. But there's a few places if you go kind of in the Midwest and a little bit more back east where they have some similar events. And so, as they're talking through it, I'm sort of like, okay, this is interesting. And then they made the nexus between this pretty large, in Placer County, this pretty large car culture, exotic muscle car racing culture that exists. And you see them, they meet in car clubs, they go to events. We do our rods thing downtown here. There's just a lot of interest in that. And there's a lot of resources and money. It's very similar to the aviation field where, if you're going to spend a whole heck of a lot of money on an exotic or fast vehicle, you want the opportunity probably to go show it off. And who knows, maybe even race it too. So as we thought through it, then we thought, okay, how can we design this such that it is of value to the airport? Because what we were sensitive about is we're going to have to close the airport for a day or 2 to do this. There will be some wear and tear, so we got to work through those issues. There's all these little things, right? Insurance, sponsorship, technical equipment needs we may need, brief disruption of airport operations, as I mentioned, startup funding, buy-in and feedback from the pilot community, and then any kind of regulatory or FAA hurdles we have. So there's all these questions, right? But conceptually, setting all those aside for a moment, we could see a path where we do kind of a pilot event this year and try it out. And at minimum, it's a really fun event for the community to come out, participate, or just watch. And we charge a gate fee and or a parking fee. We're still working that out. But keep it low cost. So, less than, I think we talked about $10. And, maybe kids under a certain age are free. So it's affordable for the community. And you get to go out and for most of the day, get to see some kind of high-powered vehicles race up and down the runway. Our folks in the back believe that, and we do too, that this is going to actually draw people from way outside of Placer County that are going to see this opportunity to test their vehicles out on a larger track, a lengthier track, and they're going to make it happen. As we worked through it, we realized that if we wanted to try to get an event together this year, there was a lot of work we have to do in the meantime to make it happen. And instead of doing all of that due diligence, with all the other things we've got going on, I thought to myself, let's put this on really quickly for the city council just to get a tacit blessing if you're interested, so that we can then work on all the other issues. If there's something that comes up that's an absolute non-starter or a poison pill, then obviously we'll figure something else out. But thus far, we haven't found any. We did a little bit of additional outreach where Councilmember Pearl and Matt Medill and Scott and Richard and I all went out to the airport EAA meeting on Saturday morning, and we pitched the idea to the group of pilots out there. And there was like kind of a short collective groan when we talked about the shutting of the airport for the day, but I thought we were going to get a lot more sort of concern and pushback. We kind of got the opposite. They thought it was an awesome idea. They think that the opportunity to raise a bunch of revenue for the airport was really important. We think that conservatively, there's a lot of different opinions internally and staff on what it would raise. We think that it's reasonable if we do this correctly, and there's a lot of interest, that you could raise up to 6 figures net. And our idea is to propose that city council, everything net of cost goes right back to the airport. And it goes not towards airport salaries or fixed costs. It goes towards airport projects, repaving runways or taxiways, slurry sealing, crack sealing, aesthetic improvements, landscaping, et cetera. And the pilots and community members out there at the airport really like that idea, because that's where we struggle, is we just don't have very much money to invest in the airport, and this gives us a little shot in the arm. And so worst case scenario, maybe we don't generate all that much, but the community still has a really good time. Medium and best case scenario, I think it becomes sort of a legacy event that ends up being really fun for the community, and eventually we're going to be really good at putting it on, and it won't be such a big effort for us. So that's kind of the general sales pitch. Like I said, we do have a slide deck, but as I talk through it now, I'm wondering if you need that at this point. And I don't know if our officers in the back want to come up and add something. Did I miss anything, guys? Yeah, did council have any other questions? I mean, you can grill them while they're here.
My only question and my only concern, and I'm all for this, and though you know me, I'm the one who's like, let's not say no, let's say yes. But my only concern is, how do we protect the runway and don't damage it from the racing tires?
Yeah, so in the course of looking into this, I reached out to numerous other airports that have hosted this event. It sounds like it's anywhere from, It sounds like it's anywhere from like 5 years to 7 years running, maybe even longer than that. So they've been doing it consecutively, and some of them are even twice a year because it's so beneficial. And so I specifically reached out to all these airports that have been doing it, asking them what kind of damage they've seen. And not really to my surprise, but all of them, aside from one, said there's not really damage other than rubber left on the roadway, and they just do rubber cleaning afterwards, and it's all gone. They talk about there's been a couple of lights that have been taken out, and that's just built into their contract with this company that does it. And they fixed the light, but overall haven't been reported that there's any significant damage whatsoever.
Good to know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and one of the reasons is that you can either do a takeoff from a dead stop, and so that's where you get the spinning tires and the smoke and everything else. That's where you can leave a lot of rubber. We're talking about a rolling start, so picking up to 50 and then going fast. So it's basically, it's very similar to the impact that an aircraft would have on the runway.
Is there a difference between, is it really that big of a difference if we did a rolling start versus just like the traditional start? Is there a big difference in
Well, the traditional start is you've got your foot on the brake and you're accelerating and your tires are spinning. That's what
Yeah.
I'm concerned about,
Yeah,
damage.
right.
Yeah, does that
If
cause?
you don't do
more
that, you
damage?
just start from a dead stop, that might, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Does
not sure
that
about
cause
the
more
rolling start. That
damage?
seems weird to me.
Well,
Yeah.
even with the rolling start, most runways don't have the ability to do that like
Right.
we do because ours is 1.14 miles. I mean, so it's much longer than others. So
Okay.
to preserve the ground and the asphalt, if we needed to, we could do it that, but we can always test it out and also with the FAA requirements, to be able to put this on, we have to put the money back into the airport. We're not allowed to, based on their requirements, to use that money for something else anyway. Right, Sean?
Well, I
Yeah.
definitely don't want to cause or allow any damage to occur for the event, but if, I guess what I'm not concluding is that if there is not substantial damage and we find that out, I don't want to ruin any fun if we can
Yeah.
just go for
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
and, you know, and so anyway.
Well, Travis had written communication with him, and I called three of them. I didn't realize that he did it. So I called them, and they all said the same thing. That's exactly the question that I asked, what's the damage, potential damage? They said there really is no damage, except to a very slight, some rubber, and it's an easy thing to fix.
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I was thinking. And,
Yes.
and if we do have to fix that little area, how much does that cost? What does that take out of the budget? Is it worth it? Is it not? Those are the
Uh,
things that I'm curious about. but-
So that's part of some of the due diligence, like Matt's done some research that there's some treatments that we might look at that minimize that. So we'll work through it. What we really like though is that it's about 1,000 feet from where anybody would spectate. So it's very safe. We'll have first responders out there, of course. It's pretty, honestly, for an event, it's pretty low cost. It's just the entertainment is the people that are showing up. And so some of the revenue you're generating isn't even from the patrons watching. It's the guys and gals that come out with their vehicles. They'll pay $150 or whatever it is to race their car up and down once or twice, and they'll probably be super excited about that. We also have thought, we haven't worked this out, but we're kind of playing around internally of doing kind of like a law enforcement thing where, maybe Lincoln
That'd be
races
cool.
Right.
Race a cop.
races another, or maybe we bring in Rockland PD and Roseville PD and
Oh,
SO, and there's some bragging
Yeah.
rights. I don't know.
which
I
Trying to
don't
make
know,
it
We
fun.
might get the mayor to race the,
Yeah, you could do, yeah.
Well, we need to have bragging rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to mention, just because I'll say this, these two guys are clearly car fanatics. And so there's a part of this is related to just that they really think this stuff is cool. But what I appreciate is it's not every day that an employee comes with a cool idea that actually is beneficial to the city and a struggling area of the city and says, hey, let's try this. That's pretty rare.
well, I was just gonna say that. Thanks for bringing this idea and doing all the research. I think it would be really fun. I have a question for you on the law enforcement side. Do you think that if we did this once or twice a year and we gave people the opportunity to race their cars, that it might stop the drag racing on Aviation? Back there, just kids or whoever back there racing their cars. I know sometimes that's a problem or different parts of town. You think maybe that might be a deterrent? If they know that, hey, you can come and do this and you don't have to do it in the middle of the
No.
night and kill yourself.
The chief is shaking his head
Am I just
no.
being Pollyanna, hopeful thinking?
Chief's over there
Yes.
saying, no, you're probably just gonna
Being
instigate
such a
more.
mom right now.
Thanks for your vote of confidence over there, Chief.
Instead of shop with a cop, it's
It
race
could
the
be a
cop.
deterrent. I think it gives folks another avenue to get that out of the
Yeah,
system for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And not only that, but include the county itself and other businesses to come support this event, because I think is something that will take off and will be an annual event.
Yeah.
Or it will happen either once or twice a year. I think there's a big opportunity for Lincoln.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we can move forward with this.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And from a management standpoint, if we were going from a standing start to putting something on like this, it would be a heavy lift within 6 months, because that's really what we're talking about.
Right.
I look at it that this is wings and wheels on the ground. I mean, we already know the marketing, we already know the intake, we know the safety protocols, we know the vendors. So we've done probably 70%, actually 70% of the work already, and we fine-tuned that part of it. What we have to work on is the actual speed running of it. And these guys, know what they're doing. There are other people in the community that have been to these events. So we're going to be drawing on people who can give us really good guidance in that. And the key is that we want to make sure that it's a safe event.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
that's number one. Number one, saving. And I think
We're not
and we've got that.
totally reinventing the wheel.
Not at all. Not at all. Oh, that's bad.
Ah,
But it's cut and paste from your wings and wheels, just the
That's good.
nuances.
Awesome.
I think this is so creative and I'm
Very good.
excited. I want to see it succeed. So, yeah, I'll wait.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you
Thank
guys
you.
being here.
Thank you.
They do. Is there anybody
I'll let her
that would like to make a public comment on this? Okay, we can come back.
Oh, I think you have
Yeah.
one in the back.
So I've got some indirect experience putting these on. My cousin used to do these at a airstrip down in Southern California.
Cool.
I'm sure you guys have done some due diligence. There's actually companies that'll like promote these, that'll do them for you rather than doing it yourselves. He tried doing his first couple himself, and he didn't even break even because there's a lot of, unforeseen costs, insurance costs, things like that. And there wasn't damage to the airstrip, but as his events got bigger and cars got faster, then there were safety requirements for the runway. And if it wasn't smooth enough, or there was too large of a crack, then they couldn't do it. So because of how fast the cars would go in that half mile. So those just things to think. I honestly have never stepped foot on the runway at Lincoln Airport, so I have no idea what it looks like. Could be immaculate. These are things that I know my cousin ran into when he put those races on down in Southern California.
Oh, thank you for your input. I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else want to make a public comment? Do you have anybody online? Okay. John, did you want to say something?
I just want to say that I'm mindful of the same things that are brought up about, wear and tear on the runway, but otherwise I'm fully supportive of giving it a go. Excited.
We let it roll.
Give it a go.
Oh my gosh. I could go forever on this one.
Yeah, there you go. So you
Turn and
guys just
burn.
need direction that we're in favor to go ahead and do, we don't need to vote or anything.
I
It's
think we got it.
Okay,
Yep.
good, awesome. Yeah, thank you. All right, wonderful. Yeah. All right, city manager report.
Thank you. Just a couple quick things. We are now pretty deep into our budgeting process. We will be for the next month and a half. So just more generally for the community, if mine or Nita's responses are a little bit slower than they normally are, that's why. The beauty of a 2-year budget is you get 2 years. The downside is that forming it is a lot more work for those 2 years. But all departments have submitted requests. We have gone through our capital projects already. We went through technology today. We're going to go through personnel requests. Ruth Ann is working on revenues, all to kind of form something so we can be bringing you a budget in the May, June-ish timeline. Nothing thus far has overly concerned me in terms of the data we looked at, but we've got a ways to go there, so we'll be reporting back. Next meeting, we have a couple of things that I'll just want to throw into your radar. First off, I think we'll have the completed summation of your strategic plan into a document that you can review and make little edits to if you'd like, and then hopefully approve so we can get rolling on those things. We also are going to have a presentation on a CFD policy, which the city hasn't really ever had. And we are of a size now where we need to make some decisions about how you want to do that moving forward. And then just a plug, if you are interested, because I told the Women's Club I would do this, if you're interested in attending the Masquerade Ball, they still have tickets on sale. I believe they close those tickets this Friday. So if you want to go, you got to buy your tickets before Friday. And that, although I believe all those proceeds go towards the project where they'd like to build an additional hall next to the Women's Club. And I think that's all I've got for today. Thank you.
Okay, item 16, council initiated business. Anybody have any business? Oh, committee reports.
I'll kick it off.
Okay.
I've got Placer County Air Pollution Control District tomorrow. So nothing to report. I'll report next time. I did attend the Pioneer Energy Board meeting last month, and they're bringing on quite a number of new communities as part of the program. And so this is helpful to us. Number one, it spreads the fixed costs over a larger base. And secondly, it puts us in a different and higher category so we can get better rates when we're purchasing it. So it's a win-win for everything. So that's really good. And then the library board will have another meeting tomorrow, and they're still going through the process of getting community input and seeing how, what they think the library is going to be going forward.
I do not.
John and I had a list law workshop today, where staff was mainly for the new members, but it was actually very helpful and informative, just about the history of the JPA for the wastewater treatment plant and the work that needs to be done, getting ready for the expansion project and all of that. And then John and Supervisor Gustafson took a tour of the plant. I did not, because I've been there a few times already. And so that I'll let him speak to that in a second. But so it was good. We've got some work to do. We've got some conversations to be had about moving forward and what is the most cost-effective ways to operate out there and the expansion that's coming. So we'll have lots of updates for you as we go along with that. I attended a SACOG subcommittee meeting yesterday. I'm on the Policy and Innovation Committee. And it was more of just an overview of the budget process and the work activities that we're doing. So nothing really substantial to report, except for we had a Zoom in from their SACOG's political lobbyist or whatever, consultant, whatever they call the person, anyway, interesting fellow. And the message they just kept talking about was it's kind of like uncertain, right, with the new administration in Washington, like funding and what's moving forward, what's not. And he called it the dust of chaos, like we'll see what's happening. I just sat there kind of smirked because I was like, I think it's funny, but so they're waiting to see, how things are going to shake out as far as the funding rounds and all of that, but still working on the Green Means Go project, which is where we got our funding for our downtown plan. So that's good. We're, doing that. So, so I'll have more updates as we go along with that. And then Thursday is our first GSEC board meeting of the year. So looking forward to that. We'll have more in a couple weeks.
I have Sheridan Mac tomorrow, and then in a couple weeks,
Okay. Nothing going to share. Anything interesting out at the tour? Was there any input about like the cameras and that sort of thing, or just?
Yes, Lincoln PD sent someone out to provide some feedback on, places to place cameras versus lights versus signage. So I think we'll see some refined proposals in next month.
All right. Item 18, information item. Sean already covered the women's masquerade ball. Anybody else have any information?
I had a quick question, informational item, and sorry to spring this on you, but I just know you're going to know off the top of your head and I forgot. But do you have any updates on status of cell phone towers in particularly 12 Bridges and where that's at and what's going on for anybody who hasn't been keeping up?
Yes, actually two updates. One just we talked about today. One is that I'm just about done negotiating a lease that's over on the Coyote Pond area. If you're ever at Coyote Pond and you kind of look across the pond and up, there's like this hill. And up at the top of that hill, there's like trees that kind of hug the hill. And it's sort of a perfect location where you could put a cell tower that would generally be hidden for the most part. And so one of the providers, I believe it's Epic Wireless, has been talking with me for a while about that one. And I think we're pretty much to terms now. So that'll be coming to council. They're going to have to go through a separate planning process with Christian's team, but the council will kind of have to compartmentalize your decision making. You'll have to approve the business component of it, but it may be that when the planning process goes through, it doesn't pass muster. Those are two separate decisions, right? So that's one, imminent. And then the other one that we discussed today is that we have to put a tower up in Catavadera on our water tank for some needs that Jen has in terms of beaming internet around. And we were talking today that we're going to reach out to some of the other partners we have in the wireless community that do that and may offer them the opportunity to participate with us and co-locate on that tower. So, because it's a little unclear to us how much the Coyote Pond project would help, northern Sun City / Catavadera and vice versa. So
The
we probably need
topography.
them. Yeah, we probably need them in both locations. So that's where, and the cell tower project up at Catavadera is already an approved CIP that we're working through right now. So
Okay, so for everyone who doesn't know, how long these processes take, what would your like very rough estimate be on when we would see them passing, or coming through final approvals?
the one that is ours on the water tower doesn't have some of the same regulatory hurdles that the private tower has. So I'd say, soup to nuts, 6 months, you think? Soup to nuts, 6 months for the Coyote Pond one. Jen's project is probably a much shorter time frame because, we own that property.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Christian, you want to talk about this?
Yes, big plug for 2 weeks from today is the opening day of a 3-day charrette on the downtown master plan. So we're canvassing downtown with flyers. I put some flyers out for you just to hand around or in your travels to your constituents. There's a QR code there. So just, we love your advocacy and leadership and help and just getting the word out, and really excited for this to unfold. So 2 weeks from today.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. All right, anything else? All right, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.